Hello, everybody. Welcome back to my YouTube channel, All Things Taylor, with yours truly for Q&A Wednesday. Wicked. Am I missing Pinky now? um, I'm having such a great day. So I was very excited to jump on in and do this Q&A with you guys. So I wanted to share with you guys something that happened last night that made just today, just so grateful. Oh, my dimples, that's funny. um, so for those that don't know, because I don't really do things to be like, look at me, look what I did. Which is very funny because it's like so the opposite of how people describe me in the business, so it makes it laugh. But anyways, so over the summer I adopted a rescue dog. I just, you know, I was like a bleeding heart for her. I just had to have her. And she was so abused and um, just terrified of life. You could just tell that she didn't know what love was, and she didn't even know if she was deserving of whatever love is, that she didn't know what it was, you know. And so I renamed her Scooby. And, you know, she wouldn't eat if you were within like 3 feet of her. She's like scared of toys that make noise. She's scared of hand movement. She's scared of my cell phone. Just terrified. The only thing she's not terrified of is like other dogs and cats. um, so I just felt like, you know, she needed a home and someone to love her, so I adopted her, right? And last night, after having her since mid-August, she ate treats and some chicken out of our hands for the first time. She would not take any sort of treat, nothing from me or anyone else. And yesterday we finally got her to eat a treat. Not just eat a treat, but like eat it from our hands. And she's like letting me pet her now while she's eating, which is very big when you're training dogs, guys. So if you want some tips, comment below and let me know. I can tell you a bunch of trial and error things I've learned with several different breeds of dogs over the years. I'm just a huge animal lover. I would adopt as many as I possibly could. So she's been an amazing addition to our tiny home. She had her first, you know, real Christmas with Santa paws, and it was just so amazing getting to see the progress she's made, and just becoming like a lovable dog who's realizing, oh, this is what love is, and I do deserve it. It's just the best. So getting her to do that and then getting to pet her this morning while she ate breakfast was just the best. I was so excited. Um, so there's that. Yeah, that was just amazing. And then being able to make it through my outdoor workout today, it was just so amazing because it really just showed how far I've come. Just so happy today. So happy. Okay, so without any further ado, let's get right on to Q&A Wednesday. There were not a lot of questions, and that's okay. Everybody's busy with the holiday since I posted last week's Q&A Wednesday. So the first one was who like slaps the hardest. The answer is I don't know. Probably me. I slap really hard, which is why I laugh when I hear commentary on my matches when they're like, "Oh, you don't want to. Taeler Hendrix doesn't want to go toe to toe with Lufisto, or Taeler Hendrix doesn't want to go strike for strike with Sonya Strong," and it's like, little do they know these people like don't want to take some of my chops and like things like that because they're hard, mostly just the chops. But I love it when like there's like girls like Sonya Strong that will love to take it and stuff, and then I tell them, I'm like, I will dish it, but you better give it right back to me, and I'll make them duck something or miss something or whatever, and I'll have them just light me up continuously because I'm usually the heel. So I'll just like oversell for them, and I'll take more and more and more for them. I love that. So probably me. Other than that, I don't know, but I do know a slap that we've discussed on a previous video. A slap I took about maybe 3 months or less after my release from TNA. It actually made me deaf. I didn't have hearing in that ear because the girl cupped my ear so hard. You're never supposed to do that. And yeah, I was deaf for several months. Now I have hearing back, but not all of it. So I'm partially deaf in that ear from like nerve damage from the slap. Never again. never again. Another person asked me if I've ever had to fight fans. The answer is I've actually had to fight with like more like workers in the business as opposed to fans, which is crazy. But I have had some fans be creepy, overly handsy, try to find my address, try to follow me home and things like that. It's like really creepy. Like, people just don't do that. Just don't be creepy. That's why I love Eve Torres Gracie's Instagram. Like, she gives all kinds of really cool tutorials on how to like defend yourself in situations and stuff like that. I just wish I would have had a lot of that uh, earlier on in the business. Like a mama bear like that would have been amazing. Shout out to Eve Torres. Love her. She is so fierce. But yeah, I've actually had to like defend myself against like workers more so than fans. But I did have like a fan like follow me out to my car once, and that was crazy. That led me to like always walk with like keys in between my knuckles, and stuff like that. Yeah, and I've learned how to run in high heels. So I gave somebody, I think it was Jordan Grace. I think I gave her. I was wearing my valet heeled boots. So I think they're like 3-inch heels, and I tombstoned her in that. I'm like, that's how freaking good I am. Give someone a perfectly safe variation tombstone pile driver in 3-inch heels. What? Shout out to Jordan Grace. I never told her, when we were on the indies together, but I really liked working with her because I liked the fact that we were both very versatile and both like to tell a story, but also be exciting to watch and stuff, and just the different dynamic. I really enjoyed that, and she was usually very open-minded, as am I. Okay, let's see here. There's a lot of situations where I've had to fight my way. Another person asked me, told me that they ended up getting talked out of wrestling and went into the Air Force after high school. I have nothing but respect for that. My grandfather went into the Army before he was even of legal age. So he served this country before he was even 18 years old. I think that that's crazy, awesome, and cool, and I'm super proud. I love giving back to veterans so much. You may not, agree with what they are being forced to do, but you can still support the sacrifice that they and their loved ones make for our country. And my dad was actually in the Coast Guard, and my uncle, I believe, was a Marine. So I actually thought of doing that. I actually took the ASVAB, and it creeped out my mom because my mom didn't know. And what's really funny is I thought the ASVAB was like a pre-SAT thing. So I took it in high school and I aced it, surprisingly. I wish the SAT was that easy. And I didn't know that it was a military, sort of exam thing. And then all these different military branches started calling my house when I was a teenager. And my mom was like, "What did you do? What did you sign up for? What did you not tell me?" It was crazy. It was so crazy. But I started wrestling when I was 17, so the point was moot. I was still in high school anyway when I started wrestling. Don't feel guilty. This person said that they got talked out of it. Don't feel guilty. Your life would be so different, but that doesn't necessarily mean it would be different in a good way. Your body would probably be a lot different and a lot more worn out if you had gone the pro wrestling route. But if you ever do decide that you want to try that, a school in California, because I know you said that you had once looked at one in Hayward, California, a really good school to check out is Santino Bros. I highly recommend them, as well as, Ohio Valley Wrestling, and a couple other choices. So go where there's a reputation of excellence. Don't just go somewhere because it's local, because you're going to waste your time. You're better off learning what to do instead of spending a bunch of time learning what not to do. There's a difference. You're learning, but there's a drastic difference. I always like to say, like, Sasha Banks, who was Mercedes KV back then, started only like a couple years after me. And I saw her career escalate a lot faster than mine because she went to a better school to start off, and she had better people supporting her at a very crucial development and growth time. And so then when we started coming up the ranks at the same time together, I was just like, wow, if I had, had different outlets available to me, things could be different. But you can't, you can't judge your story to somebody else's because they're not the same for a reason, because you aren't the same person as that person. So I'm always a big believer in, don't just go somewhere because it's local, go somewhere because it's the best. If you really dream of something, you need to be willing to make those sacrifices to follow through with that. And so that's my advice for people that, are flirting with the idea of getting into wrestling, don't just go somewhere because it's local and pay some Joe Schmo from East whatever to $3,000, to learn how to wrestle, and then you have to work yourself from the ground up without any sort of leverage. It's better to have that leverage. And how do you get that leverage? By learning from the best who have accomplished or helped other people accomplish what you want to accomplish. So would you rather go to the training school that produced, WWE superstars, or go to a school that produced, Joe Schmo from down the street next door coming at you live from, backyard YouTube on Wednesdays and Saturdays and Sundays and Fridays? Like, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, strive for excellence in whatever you do, and don't judge your level 1 to somebody else's level 100. That'll never. Comparison is like drinking poison. You die a slow, painful death, and the people you're comparing yourself to have no idea, and they just keep doing their thing. So that's what I have to say about that. Another person asked me if I plan on having kids. Not anytime soon. I'm still doing me and building a life. And I like to keep my personal life quiet, because the more vocal I've been about my own happiness in my personal life, it comes back to bite a lot of people. So I actually value privacy a lot more than I ever thought I would, because I believe in living life as an open book, and you still can, but keep certain things private. People don't need to have a 100% VIP all access pass to your life, because not everybody respects your life. Not everybody respects your journey, your hustle, and everything you ever went through to get what you have. Some people just think, oh, that person's lucky. But I always find that, it's interesting how the harder somebody works, the luckier they seem to get. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, no, you're the CEO of your own life. Hire, fire, and promote as necessary. And don't feel bad about it. If somebody's toxic and ruining you and how you feel about yourself and your loved ones in your life, cut them out. Very simple. If somebody's supporting you in everything that they do and they're there for you 100%, hire and promote. But not everyone needs an all access pass, and that means family, friends, acquaintances, strangers. Don't give people that sort of power over you, because they don't respect that sort of power. You need to keep that power for yourself. But with that being said, I love kids. Like I've said on this channel before, I'm a former preschool teacher. I was doing that when I was wrestling. I've had a bunch of crazy jobs while I was, pursuing my dream of being a wrestler. I'm always at my happiest multitasking, but not everyone's like that. So neither here nor there. Someone also asked me to kind of break down some of the budget that happens with people in wrestling. So, and I think this question might be based off of a comparison of the pros and cons of being an independent wrestler on the indies versus being signed. Now, there's a lot of pros and cons to both. I am an advocate of doing what's best for you. And what that means is, just because you always dreamed of, for example, this is just an example, because I see it the most, so that's why I'm going to use this as the example. Just because when you were 5 to 15 years old, you dreamed of being a WWE superstar, doesn't mean that when you're 35 and you've had all kinds of experiences out in the world and opportunities to try and fail and become a better person, it doesn't mean you failed if you don't decide to continue going after that. It just means your goals changed, your perspective changed, and your outlook on life changed, because now you have life experience that you did not have when you were age 5 to 15. And I see a lot of my peers kind of think that they aren't successful if they don't have a certain label. And that makes me very sad, because I'm like, wow, you are so beautiful. You are so talented. You've wrestled, for example, in Mexico, India, on TNA, on Ring of Honor, on AEW, and in the Tokyo Dome. Okay, for example, this one chick I'm referring to, she's done so many amazing things in less than 3 years of wrestling, and I'm just drool. I'm like, wow, at 3 years, I still hadn't, made it out of New England yet. So everybody's journey is so different, right? And yet she does not think that she's very successful because she hasn't made it yet to get that official contract with the WWE or any other major televised company. And it's like, no, girl, you are so successful because you did all of those things through your own hard work, not because a company already had shows booked and you were signed, so they have to use you, so they're getting return on the investment that they made when they signed you. It's so much harder to hustle, and how successful you are depending on your own hustle and not how another company books you or so forth and so on. So that's how I view that. What was your dream 10 years ago? It's okay if it changes and evolves, and you have to allow for that. And so many of my peers haven't learned to evolve with their dreams. They hold themselves to this impossible standard of how they saw something as a kid without realizing that, as a kid, you have rose-colored goggles on. You don't know how the world works. You don't even know who you want to be out in the world yet, because you haven't been out in the world long enough to understand it. That's why I always say it's like the great and powerful Oz, who's just a man behind a curtain who's angry with a keyboard. Like, it's like the perfect analogy for the world and for the business. And so I see so many people enter wrestling loving it and leave it hating it, and I don't want to be one of those people. And I would rather see the number of those people go drastically down, because it's really high, and it has been for a very long time, just not everyone talks about it, which is why I love my podcast so much, because I want to get more people in on tough conversations like this. So, it really just depends on who you are. Some people will thrive in the WWE environment. Other people find it toxic. Some people will thrive in AEW, and other people will think it's a crapshoot. Some people think, being contracted to TNA with a pay per appearance is success. Great. Other people are like, well, no, their old contracts were a success because you were exclusive to them. Couldn't do indies unless you had permission. So it's all a matter of opinion, but the person whose opinion should matter the most is yours. It's your life, your dream. You should define what happiness and success looks like for you, not based on everybody else's opinions, because that will drive you crazy, because you will never make everybody else happy. You have to make you happy. And that's why I always say, look back long enough to give the kid you were, who made way for the adult you needed to become out in the world someday, a high five and say, I got you. We're going to do some epic shizzit someday. And don't let yourself down. I think that's the best way to approach life, and it'll make you so less crazy than trying to keep up with the Joneses and satisfy all these other people with their wrestling blogs and reviews and websites and 5 stars and all this stuff, when they themselves have never set foot in the ring. They've never gone through what you've had to go through. They haven't bled the drops of blood and the sweat and the tears and the broken bones and the ligament tears and all the other gnarly stuff that goes along with what you sign up for to be a wrestler and a pro athlete in general. Those people half the time are paid off by companies to make articles that are positive and say nice things about their boys so they can feel like they're in with the in crowd. But when you know where the in crowd goes, it's like, it's not worth it. So that's my point of view about being signed versus not being signed, because I've been both. And for me, I like having my creative freedom to control my own brand, but not everyone's like that. So that's why I say you gotta figure that out for you. But I think there's so much money that can be made on the independents. It's ridiculous. But with that being said, there's gender gaps in pay on both sides. There's gender gaps in pay on television and the opposite gender gap in pay on the independents. I've seen, and I've been a very big advocate of this sort of change, but with specific reason. I saw a girl that was barely a year in the business, right? And her and I were both extras for the WWE as Rosebuds. And I remember her sitting next to me, and she was complaining that she was getting paid $150. And when is she going to be getting signed already? And I was just like, what? Like, you've never even set up a ring. And to this day, she's never set up a ring. But everybody worships the ground she walks on. But it's neither here nor there, But she was getting paid a lot more on the indies than a lot of men were, who had been wrestling 5, 7, 10, 12, 15 years. So there's gender gaps in pay on both sides, whereas where you go onto television, the men usually get paid a lot more money than women. But that's starting to change now with a lot of progress. And ratings and viewerships and analytics really are a game changer, especially when people are honest about them. And so there's gender gaps in pay on both sides. But with that being said, I think you shouldn't be paid something just because of your gender. I think you should be getting paid, your value that you uniquely bring to the table. I don't think that there should be a set pay for women, a set pay for men. It's like, no, there should be a set pay for everybody, and then go up from there based on what you bring, based on your numbers, your analytics, your brand, your values. So for example, would you pay somebody who, say for example, just left the WWE and they were the main event of WrestleMania? Do you think that person, when they sign with a different company, should be getting paid the same as a person who has no wrestling experience, no fame, no notoriety, and hasn't even had their first match yet? Should they be getting paid the same? No. So when you put it in terms like that, there are circumstances that need to go into effect. If that girl is selling, 200 tickets to this person's indie show, then yeah, they're worth getting paid more than somebody who's been in the business 10 years who's not even selling 5 tickets. So I think that take away the nepotism, take away the favoritism, take away personal hidden agendas and designs. Pay people what they bring to the table and their value and their worth. And I think that's a game changer for sure, because then also too, the people running these companies won't be getting taken advantage of as much. And it also will provide more opportunities because less of them will be shutting down because they're not going to be taken advantage of to the point where they go bankrupt. Somebody who gets paid everywhere else, say $200, sometimes they'll go somewhere when they hear there's a person that has a lot of money running a show, and they'll be like, oh yeah, my rate's $1,000. It's like, that's not really smart long term, and for some wrestlers, I have found that taking a little bit of a pay cut so that I can get more bookings around, I end up making more money. And that's not to say that they wouldn't have paid me my full rate. I have no problem getting my payday because I'm reasonable. I know I sell tickets, I advertise, and I always spend time talking to my fans at shows. So it's really funny when people are like, oh, nobody wants to book her. It's like, I can wrestle whenever the heck I want. I love working with people like WWR, Drew Cordero, on the East Coast. I love working for WWR and Beyond Wrestling. I love working with Lucha Patron and MPWL. There's quite a few places that I genuinely enjoy working and would rather work there than signing somewhere else and giving away my freedom. But like I said a few minutes ago, that all has to be up to whoever is making that decision. And a lot of times they don't make the decision for themselves. They make the decision on what they think, like, the masses would think of them if they didn't do something versus doing it and doing it for you. So that's something that I'm very passionate about, is like, you got to do you. Be free with your authenticity, define things for yourself, and then go after them. You'll be so much happier in life, that's the biggest thing. So I think those were most of the questions that ended up being in for QnA Wednesday. Be sure to check out my website, taelerhendrix.net, as well as make sure you comment below on this YouTube channel for more questions for next week's QnA Wednesday, as well as checking out my books on Amazon.com. It's Not Easy Being a Sloth by Taeler Hendrix, and A Fish with a Wish is Trish by Taeler Hendrix. I hope you guys have a very healthy and happy and successful new year, and don't forget to yell Jumanji as soon as the ball drops.